Hi, this is Nick Pawson and you're watching News 24 Live. I'm joined in studio by Sport 24 chief writer Rob Howing to discuss the Proteas' 62-run defeat yesterday to Australia. Rob, thanks for joining us.
No problem, Nick.
Let's get right into it. Yesterday's defeat, was that more a case of South Africa failing or Australia's resurgence after their obviously humiliating defeat to Zimbabwe?
Yeah, it was. I always feared the bounce back by the Aussies. It was likely to be reasonably lethal. I'm sure some harsh words were expressed in the dressing room after the Zimbabwe defeat. The Aussies would have been stung. You know, they're not by nature a team that likes or is used to losing. They are ranked number one or have been ranked number one in the world. It's all quite fluid at the top of the table at the moment, and that would have been just another reason why they would want to get back to sort of what they would call normal service as quickly as possible. So that was definitely a factor. From a South African point of view, perhaps. I don't know. I don't think complacency would be the right word. I think that our team would have felt pretty good about chasing down such a high target the last time around, and this time the big failing was on the batting front. I thought. I didn't think the bowling effort was too bad. Apart from there were some rickety moments towards the death. I suppose we'll come around to discussing that. But 220 was a disappointing outcome. AB de Villiers was the first to fess up. He said, we never really were competitive in this match. It always felt as though South Africa were sort of behind the eight ball, which was obviously a little bit of a concern.
Okay. Faf du Plessis, again being sort of the one shining light while everything else around him was falling apart. Looks like he's cementing his place there at number 3.
Very much so. He looks more and more confident. I love the way he tees up that sort of lofted straight drive and on drive. He's pretty lethal, particularly in that area of the park, although he plays good shots all around the wicket. Just temperamentally, he just looks like a real presence at the crease. He's certainly got Australia's number. His figures in both Test and ODI action against Australia are pretty decent, which tells you there's certainly the sign of a quality player, because you want to have an inflated average against a team like the Aussies, among the very best on the planet. So he's really going fantastically well. I think I compared him in my text yesterday to a London bus. It took him 50 ODIs before he could manage to get to 3 figures. Then suddenly, 2 in 2 minutes, as it were, 2 in succession against the Aussies. So he'll be feeling very chuffed with life at the moment. And he certainly looks like he's slotting into those sort of callous shoes, sadly only from a batting point of view, of course, pretty well.
Well, I mean, just goes to show that we need more players of his caliber that do obviously relish under that kind of pressure. I mean, you can't say the same for the rest of our middle order, unfortunately.
Yes, big issue there. I think that's where South Africa have one problem area. Don't get me wrong, they're a very good developing one-day side. I think some credit must go to coach Russell Domingo and others. They've gone for a policy of sort of stability when they play key matches. There are certain games where they do a bit of experimentation, but by and large, the sort of first team is reasonably settled. When I say reasonably, that doesn't mean completely settled, because there is still an issue around that middle order. I have a problem, and I know a few other people do, with David Miller coming in as high as number 6. I think he's more of a number 7 finisher, and I think Ryan McLaren, similarly, is more of a number 8 in terms of reputation in ODIs than he is a number 7. I still think there's a role for Miller. There's no doubt about McLaren. McLaren's bowling is generally pretty disciplined and on the button, and he's a pretty cemented member of the side. But I just think ideally South Africa have got to try and find a way of shifting Miller to 7, just easing the pressure on him a little bit, because it's quite tricky to be a sort of. At number 6, you're sort of a combination of a finisher and a starter, because there will be situations where the team has had a bit of a rare sort of wobble up front. We know the South African top order is fantastic, but there will be occasions when you lose 3 wickets fairly quickly, as happened again in the latest game against Zim. So his reputation as a rebuilder is not as great as it is as a finisher, and frankly his numbers even of late as a finisher haven't been so good, so he's coming under a little bit of fresh pressure over his position. But I think a way to solve it is to shift him down somehow, but that also means rebalancing the side, because then you perhaps are having to sacrifice a bowler to strengthen the batting. And the next question to ask is, can we afford to do that? And given that there is no Jacques Kallis as an all-round factor to balance the team, it's a very, very tricky issue.